So I'm only going to cover a little bit of 5.3 today, and it should seem kind of familiar because we talked about this in terms of what we were doing in 5.1. So here's really what's going on here. And we talked about this in 5.1 as far as degree goes. Okay. If you want to take a picture of this page, that's probably the best thing to do. Take a picture and we'll go through and talk about how to find the degree and leading coefficient. So there's leading coefficient is probably a new term. We talked about degree earlier in 5.1 and we'll revisit that. So there's a couple parts to this that I want to make sure of. First off, leading coefficient. Okay. Leading coefficient does not mean, so first of all, coefficient is that number in front of the variable. And what's important is the leading coefficient goes with the highest power on the variable. Okay, so it doesn't always mean it's the first coefficient. You have to make sure that it's with the power, the highest power on the variable. So for example, for A, right, this is in what we call descending order, where the powers go down 5, 3, 2, 1, nothing on the variable. So in this case, the highest power does come first, right? The other part of these kinds of problems is this part. We don't talk about degree or leading coefficient unless it is a polynomial in one variable. And essentially, if it's not a polynomial, and we talked about this in 5.1, like there's a variable in a denominator, there's a variable under a radical, variable raised to a negative power. If any of those things are true, it's not even a polynomial. So talking about degree and leading coefficient there doesn't make sense either. Essentially, if there's more than one variable, then it's not a polynomial in one variable. So let's look at A real quick. All right. A, is there more than one variable?
Yes. No.
I mean, it's the same variable. There's more than one term with a variable, but the variable is all the same. So there's only one variable that is being used. I guess that's what I mean by that. Okay, so only one variable is being used. So it is a polynomial in one variable. Okay, the degree, if you remember how to find degree, we're looking for the highest power on the variable.
5.
So it's just 5. The degree is just 5. Okay, that's the degree. Now the leading coefficient is the coefficient that goes with that term. So that's going to be just 8. Okay. That's the leading coefficient, 8. Because it's the one with the variable to the 5th power. Okay. Now let me copy this. That's not going to let me. All right. Well, when I switch to the next slide, all that writing is going to go away. So the degree is 5. Okay, because that's the highest power on the variable, and the leading coefficient is 8 because that's the one that goes with that term. All right. Questions on that? In this case, it is actually leading. It's in the front. Okay, because that highest power comes first. How about B? Anything? Is this a polynomial in one variable?
No.
Why not?
Because there's a y.
There's this y here. So these two terms are fine, but this one has an extra y to it. So what we say, a problem like this, we just say it's not in one variable because there's more than one variable. And then we don't talk about degree and we don't talk about leading coefficient or anything like that. That's all you write. And so when it says explain why, that's your explanation.
You're explaining why if it's not.
You're just saying that it's not a polynomial in one variable because there's more than one variable. Okay. All right, let's look at the last one. Is it in one variable? Yeah, they all have x's. The degree, what is the degree for this one?
8.
8, so the highest power in the variable. So the leading coefficient then is what? Negative 4. So that's the coefficient that goes with it. So a degree is 8. The leading coefficient is negative 4. So notice it wasn't the 3, right? One of the mistakes that people make is they say the leading coefficient is the one that comes first. Well, that's not always the case. Sometimes it's the case because the highest degree was also the first term. But like here, this is the highest degree, 8, but it's not the first term. Okay. Most of the time, we put them in descending order, so we'd rearrange those. But in this case, we didn't have to, and we don't need to. Okay.
Are you just really trying to find a leading coefficient?
No, we're doing both. So in order to find the leading coefficient, we have to find the degree first. That's the key. Once you find the degree, then you just find that number that goes with it, and then you found the leading coefficient. Okay?
Is that what we do?